Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are opening up a really remarkable piece of ancient wisdom. You could almost think of it as a kind of spiritual diagnostic tool.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It helps explain the mechanics of consciousness, defining why you feel the way you feel, why you act the way you act.
And crucially, where that inner state is actually guiding you.
Exactly. We're diving deep into Chapter 14 of the Bhagavad Gita, the Gutraya Vibhaga Yoga. It's an exploration of these three fundamental forces, the Gunas, that bind us to the material world.
And it's often called supreme wisdom right there in the text itself, because understanding the stuff isn't just an academic thing.
Right.
It's presented as the shortcut to liberation. Our mission today is really to get into the mechanism, the how the pure soul, the Atman, gets conditioned by these forces, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas.
And how they keep us sort of stuck, right? In that cycle of striving and maybe suffering.
Precisely.
Okay, but before we jump into the modes themselves, we probably need to set the stage a bit. The creation context that the Gita gives here.
Yeah, absolutely. It lays out this, fascinating picture of how existence comes about, based on two core principles joining together.
Like a metaphysical pregnancy, almost.
That's a great way to think about it. You have the foundation, which is called the Mahad Brahma. Picture this as the total cosmic stuff, the raw material substance, the great womb, as it's termed.
Okay, so undifferentiated potential.
Exactly. It's inert matter on its own, but it holds all possibility.
And then the second principle.
That's the Supreme Lord, described as the seed-giving father, who impregnates that cosmic womb, the Mahad Brahma, with the individual living entities.
With us, the souls.
With the souls, yes. So you have this pure eternal soul, but by its association with this material realm, it gets conditioned.
So the soul itself is pure, but entering the material world means entering the influence of these gusas.
That's it. The gusas are inherent properties of material nature, prati. The soul is pure spirit, but the body-mind complex it inhabits is made of nature.
And nature is always composed of these three forces: goodness, passion, and ignorance.
Correct. And they aren't static. They mix and interact, defining your personality, your moods, even your destiny, according to the text.
All right, let's unpack them then, these binding forces.
Yeah.
Starting with, I guess, the one that sounds the most appealing, Sattva, goodness or purity.
Right. Sattva is the mode of illumination. Its main effect is peacefulness, clarity, sort of unblemished state.
Okay.
When Sattva is dominant, you experience knowledge, contentment, that feeling of inner well-being. It's where spirituality, ethics, that kind of thing really thrives.
That sounds, ideal.
Yeah.
So why is it described as a chain? This is the part that always gets me. How can goodness bind the soul?
Yeah, it's definitely counterintuitive. It binds through attachment to happiness and knowledge.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if you're constantly seeking that feeling, that peaceful contentment that Sattva brings, or if you become proud of your knowledge, your wisdom, your morality.
The subtle ego.
Exactly. That subtle ego of being a good person or spiritually advanced, that's still an attachment. It's a chain, just maybe a more pleasant one.
A golden chain instead of iron shackles, perhaps, but still keeping you tethered.
Precisely. Because you're attached to the results of the mode, the feeling, the status of being wise not to the self, which is beyond the modes.
Can you give like a modern example? How might that play out?
Sure. Think about maybe a dedicated activist or a really committed scholar. They're likely operating mainly in Sattva, right? Doing good work, seeking truth.
Makes sense.
But if they become overly attached to being on the moral high ground, or maybe deeply disturbed and upset when the world doesn't match their intellectual framework, that disturbance, that attachment, is the chain.
I see. Their attachment to their own clarity or their own goodness actually creates suffering when reality doesn't cooperate.
You got it. That's the binding mechanism. Subtle but strong.
Okay, that clarifies Sattva a lot. Let's shift to the next one, Rajas. Passion or activity? This feels like the engine of the material world.
It really is. Rajas is described as being born directly from desire and intense attachment. It shows up as that insatiable craving, restlessness, that almost frantic, feverish activity we often associate with high achievers, ambition.
So constant striving.
Yes. It drives markets, big projects, ambition, even conflict. It's the energy of doing.
And its binding mechanism seems maybe more obvious today, binding through attachment to the action itself and especially the results of the action.
Absolutely. The person driven by rajas is focused on the fruit of their labor, the reward, the profit, the promotion, the status.
Right.
And the text suggests that even if they achieve outward success, this path ultimately leads to pain and misery. Because the striving itself is inherently exhausting, and you become dependent on external rewards that are always fleeting.
The cycle just never stops. You get one thing, then you need the next.
Exactly. The craving is inherent in the mode itself.
Okay, so sattva is the trap of subtle ego. Rajas is the trap of frantic reward chasing. What about the third one? Tamas. Ignorance or darkness.
Tamas is born from, well, sheer delusion, according to the Gita. It causes confusion, laziness, heedlessness, like a profound negligence.
Inertia.
Inertia is the perfect word for it. It's the force of entropy, in a way. The mode that pulls things downwards towards inaction and obscurity.
So what's the chain here? How does being sort of numb or lazy bind you?
It binds through attachment to sloth, to confusion itself, and that deep inertia. It's the ultimate comfort zone of avoidance.
Avoiding effort.
Avoiding effort, avoiding truth. Instead of seeking knowledge, like in sattva, or striving for rewards, like in rajas, the tamasic tendency is just to not engage, to obscure reality.
So you get comfortable in the fog.
Or maybe just numb, yeah. And that lack of motivation, that comfort and confusion keeps any real spiritual search completely paralyzed.
Okay, so we have these three distinct ways of being bound. The subtle pride of goodness, the anxious striving of passion, and the paralyzing inertia of ignorance. But you mentioned they interact. We aren't just locked into one mode forever, are we?
No, not at all. And this is absolutely key to understanding our day-to-day psychological reality. The greens are described as being in constant competition.
Like battling for control.
Exactly. Battling for dominance within us. And any one of them can overpower the other two at any given moment. Your current state of mind, your energy level, it's basically a reflection of which Gunas winning that internal battle right now.
That makes so much sense. It's like an inner weather report.
Huh.
You might wake up planning to tackle a big project.
Maybe some rajasic drive, yeah?
Right, maybe mixed with some sattvic clarity about what needs doing. But then, suddenly, the sofa looks incredibly inviting, or you just decide, that email can wait.
And that's Tamas sneaking in, pulling you towards inertia.
Exactly. Sinking the plan.
We see this fluctuation all day long. When you suddenly feel that sense of clarity, like knowledge is just flooding in, all your senses feel illuminated.
Yeah.
You know sattva is on the rise.
Okay.
But if you feel that inner heat, maybe greed bubbling up, or that urge to constantly check your phone, just restless, can't sit still,
That's Rajas taking over.
that's rajas asserting itself.
And then that heavy feeling, the mental fog, wanting to stay under the covers even when you're awake.
That's Tamas dominating. Darkness, confusion, inertia taking hold.
So this leads to the next logical point in the text, right? If every action we take is colored by one of these dominant modes, what are the consequences?
Yes, the Gita is very precise about this. It lays out a clear cause and effect, not just for the immediate outcome, but for our future trajectory as well.
Okay, how so?
Well, it clarifies that actions performed predominantly under sattva, the mode of goodness, lead to pure results. Things like lasting satisfaction, spiritual happiness.
That sounds good.
Rajasic action, though, the action driven by craving and attachment to results. The text says it invariably leads to pain and misery.
Even if you get the thing you were striving for.
Even then, because the process itself, the inherent striving and anxiety, is painful. And the attachment ensures dissatisfaction eventually.
Okay, and tamasic action. Action taken out of laziness or confusion.
That just leads to deeper ignorance. You literally reinforce the delusion by acting out of that confused state. You dig the hole deeper, so to speak.
Wow, okay, and this ties into the really big consequence. The post-death trajectory.
Directly. The idea is that the guna that is most dominant in your consciousness at the moment of death essentially sets the direction for your next birth, your next experience.
So if someone dies while predominantly in sattva, mode of goodness, where do they go?
According to the text, they ascend to the pure higher realms, the worlds of the great sages, places characterized by peace and extensive knowledge.
Like a spiritual sabbatical?
Kind of, yeah. Free from the intense striving of the lower realms, having earned that clarity.
Okay, and dying in rajas, in passion.
That leads to rebirth among those who are also attached to action. Essentially the human realm. You come back here to continue the cycle of striving.
Interesting. So rajas generates pain and misery in this life, but still leads back to a human birth. Does that imply that even though it's painful, striving is somehow considered better than tamas? Is there a hierarchy here?
That's a really sharp question. And yes, there is a clear hierarchy implied.
Okay.
Rajasic striving, even with its pain, keeps the consciousness active. It provides opportunities, however challenging, for learning and potentially transcending. Tamas, on the other hand,
Dying ignorance.
dying in Tamas leads to birth in what the text calls lower ignorant species. It reinforces the cycle of darkness and inertia, making the path back to conscious human potential much, much longer and more difficult.
Got it. So there's definitely an encouragement away from Tamas, towards Rajas, and ideally towards Sattva, but ultimately beyond all three.
Precisely. The ultimate goal isn't just to become a good person, which is wonderful, but still operating within Sattva. The real spiritual path demands rising above all three modes.
Which brings us to this state they call Gutita, the one who has transcended the modes. Arjuna actually asks Krishna, what does this person look like? How do they act? How do we recognize them?
Yes, he wants practical science. How does this liberated state manifest?
Right, moving from the philosophy to the sort of psychology of it. What are the key traits?
Well, the first, and maybe the most fundamental, is that they become an observer, an impartial witness to their own internal landscape. Meaning they remain indifferent, unmoved by the effects of the Gunas as they come and go. They don't crave the clarity when Sattva rises, nor do they hate or resent the confusion when Tamas hits.
So it's not about forcing yourself to feel good all the time.
Yeah.
It's more about acknowledging the weather, but not getting personally drenched by it.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's like watching the internal weather report. You see it, there's Rajas pushing me to check my email again. But you don't identify with that restless urge. You don't think, that urge is me.
You recognize it as the Guna operating.
Exactly. The text says they understand the Gunas are merely operating on the senses. Their identity is anchored deeper in the unchanging self, not in the fluctuating modes.
Okay. And another key trait mentioned is profound equanimity, which sounds almost superhuman.
It does sound that way, but it's presented as the natural outcome of that non-identification. They are the same in pleasure and pain, praise and criticism, honor and dishonor.
Wow.
They see a clod of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold as essentially the same. Not in their practical use, maybe, but in their qualitative value. There's no inherent better or worse because their anchor isn't material value or sensory pleasure.
Because they're grounded beyond all that.
Correct. And the third major characteristic flows from this. They relinquish doership.
Breaking the chain of rajas, the attachment to action and results.
Precisely. They still act, they perform their duties in the world, but they don't engage in selfish, fruitive action. They aren't attached to the outcome.
So they act without anxiety about success or failure.
That's the idea. And this lack of attachment to results fundamentally neutralizes the binding power of rajas over them.
Okay, achieving this state, being the detached observer, being perfectly equanimous, acting without attachment. It sounds incredibly difficult to achieve just through willpower, especially since we're already influenced by these modes.
And that's exactly why the chapter doesn't just leave us with the description. It provides an ultimate and surprisingly simple path that cuts through all the complexity of trying to manage the gunas directly.
A shortcut.
In a way, yes. It suggests transcendence isn't mainly achieved by analyzing or manipulating the gun, but by connecting directly with the source that lies beyond them.
And this is where we get that really powerful concluding verse, verse 26.
That's the one. It offers the core instruction. And he who serves me with unswerving devotion, bhakti yoga, transcending these gunas, becomes qualified for the platform of Brahman, the absolute truth.
Bhakti yoga, the path of devotion.
That's presented as the ultimate key. Steady, focused, unconditional devotion to the Supreme, to Krishna, in the context of the Gita, automatically lifts the soul beyond the pull of goodness, passion, and ignorance.
So, by attaching yourself to the transcendent,
all your attachments to the mundane material modes naturally fall away. It's the most direct route, bypassing the need to meticulously manage the gunas through self-effort alone.
Okay, so if we were to synthesize this whole deep dive, the core message isn't just be good, although that's part of sattva and better than the others.
Right, that's a step, but not the final destination.
The real goal is to rise entirely above attachment itself, whether it's attachment to the peaceful feeling of sattva, the frantic chase for results in rajas, or even the numb comfort of tamas. And maybe even attachment to our own perceived goodness or wisdom.
Exactly. Escaping the subtle pride is just as crucial as escaping the grosser drives. True freedom lies in that steady connection to the self, the observer state, untouched by the play of these material forces around you.
So, as you, our listener, go about your day to day,
Uh-huh.
maybe take a moment to reflect on your own Connect profile. What seems to be driving your actions right now?
Yeah, notice the motivation. Is it that pursuit of gentle internal happiness and clarity? That might be Sattva.
Or is it that anxious craving for external results, that restless energy? That could be Rajas.
Or perhaps just a simple, maybe comfortable sense of inertia or avoidance. That might be Tamas at play.
Just noticing the force that's currently dominant. That seems to be the essential first step. Becoming aware, becoming the observer.
That awareness itself begins the journey towards moving beyond them, towards that state of transcendence.